A government official says Pakistan has struck Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, as part of a wave of attacks across the country. This followed claims by the Taliban authorities in Afghanistan that they carried out retaliatory strikes against Pakistan border posts, killing more than 50 troops and destroying 19 border posts in the east and southeastern Pakistan. Pakistan claims it destroyed 27 border posts belonging to the Afghan Taliban, inflicting heavy casualties on its forces. Amid the heightening tension, Pakistan's defense minister has declared an open war on Afghan Taliban as it targets its government facilities with retaliatory attacks. China has now expressed deep concern about the escalating tension. Its foreign ministry has called on both sides to settle their differences through dialogue. And for a look at the fresh clashes between Pakistan and Afghan Taliban's international affairs analyst Doug Brooks joins me from Dubai. It's good to have you join us on World Now. Pakistan is directly targeting its former allies, the Taliban. Why do you think this is happening now?
Well, there's always been tension, I think, between these groups and between these countries, and it doesn't really seem to matter who's in charge in either country. They do seem to have these issues, and of course, there's the Durand Line, this line that was created by the British some decades ago, that they dispute both sides. So that has constantly been a point of problem between them. And then also you have issues of terrorist groups that apparently are using Afghanistan for haven, and then attacking into Pakistan. And Pakistan endures this, does small attacks. This time it's a bit bigger, and this time they're actually bombing targets in Afghanistan.
And we have been hearing this is coming to both unresolved colonial era border issues that Afghanistan has never fully recognized. Talk to us about what is at the heart of this dispute and why this really remains a very sensitive issue, even decades later.
Well, it's a usual one. It's over territory. There's a dispute over, where the line should be, whether it's they hold on to the colonial lines or alter them. There doesn't seem to be any easy way out of it. Every time they sort of have talks on the agreement, there is some development up around the Durand Line where with power lines and things like that, where they have had to agree to get projects done. But still, it is, a point of contention. And anytime somebody wants to essentially rally his side, it's sort of a something that their nationalists can sort of rally behind.
Given all of this you've articulated here, how high are the fares of these raising tensions even further, considering the backdrop that this is a nuclear armed region? Are we looking at a short flare-up or the start of something bigger?
It's probably going to be fairly short. Even so, Pakistan is a much more powerful country from a military perspective. They actually have jet planes, they have tanks, they have a working military that's pretty professional and pretty experienced. The Taliban have nothing like that. At best they can do sort of guerrilla warfare. They have some leftover American equipment, Humvees that are armored and those sorts of things, but they're much smaller, much less capable than the Pakistanis. So it's really up to the Pakistanis to decide when and where they want to start and end this conflict. The Taliban can do little more than pinpricks against Pakistan. So we'll see. The Pakistanis have been essentially talking about, teaching the Afghans a lesson, punishing these terrorist groups that have been attacking into Pakistan. I will say that the Pakistanis are concerned about the India connection, and the Indian relationship with the Taliban has warmed up of late. The Indian embassy has opened up again in Kabul, and so Pakistan does not like that at all, in the sense that India is their sort of traditional and most dangerous potential enemy, and essentially, if Afghanistan starts to ratchet things up and India at the same time, then Pakistan's going to have a big problem.
But of course, we're not hoping for an escalation. But if we stack up the military capabilities on both sides, Pakistan's conventional military power and the Taliban's experience in warfare. What would escalation really look like in practical terms, and who holds the advantage?
Well, I think it will probably stay around the border, except for, as we've seen, the aerial strikes. Pakistan has a very capable air force. And from what we've seen, the attacks they've done into Kabul have been very precise, hitting military targets and so on. And that will probably continue. In terms of actual territorial movement, I don't see a whole lot of that. They have back and forth, they've taken over little you might call them observation posts and things. Not much more than an occasional bunker or something, but it's all very small scale stuff right along the border. So I don't foresee that there would be any major movement. I mean, conceivably, the Pakistanis could put together some sort of military column and take out a bigger chunk of Afghanistan, but I can't imagine they would. They don't want to keep all their that much military force on the border with Afghanistan when they have to worry about India, who they just had a recent flare up of and combat operation. So yeah, I think this will probably quiet down. We have a number of countries that have stepped in, China and Qatar and other countries that have stepped in to try and mediate this crisis. So hopefully cooler heads will eventually prevail here.
Let's talk about the countries that have now stepped in. There are reports of mediation efforts. China, Russia, and Turkey, and also Saudi Arabia may have been looking into ending this recent issue between both parties. But how realistic are de-escalation efforts, seeing that both sides do not seem to want to back down soon?
Yeah, well, it definitely certainly the verbal escalation has proceeded and now perhaps surpassed the actual combat that's going on, and it's sort of hard to back down when you make really strident statements about how much damage you're going to do to the other country or the other country's military. But yeah, Saudi Arabia has a ton of influence in that region for both Pakistan and Afghanistan. So yeah, it's quite likely they would be able to have some real significant progress from their side. And of course, China, which has been Pakistan's longtime ally. And the Chinese also have some investments in Afghanistan, so they have a reason to try and calm things down. So I think, yeah, there's some pretty heavy hitters that are weighing in on this potential, peace or end of this conflict or the fighting in any case. So that we may see things kind of quiet down, maybe a period of just making claims about how many people they've killed on the other side, and then it'll probably calm down. We would hope.
Let's look at the possibility of this ending soon. Pakistan's defense minister has spoken of an open war. Is this rhetoric aimed more at the domestic audience, or perhaps a deterrence towards the Taliban? Does this also signal regional powers involving themselves in this, and how seriously should we be taking this language from Pakistan?
I think you put it well. I think for the Pakistanis, there certainly is a domestic audience that they're trying to please on this. So yeah, saying that they're going to successfully do more damage to the Afghanistan and make them essentially pay a price for harboring these terrorist elements. But it also, keep in mind, could be an opportunity for Pakistan to actually put some troops into just across the border into Afghanistan and actually really do some damage to the training camps or the alleged training camps for the terrorists that have been, constantly pestering Pakistan. So they may actually, it's conceivable they could do something a little bit more substantial. But again, you're not going very far into Afghanistan. It would be probably pretty limited attacks. But Pakistan may want to make a more strident point that, not only are we going to hit these terrorist camps and these, Pakistani separatists and others that have been, bothering Pakistan, they may want to create some pain for the Afghans by, again, as we've seen, bombing the capital city and maybe some other large cities in Afghanistan. And Afghanistan really does not have a way to defend itself against aerial attack. Since they don't really have an air force, and as far as we know, very little in the way of anti-aircraft weapons.
This is a very sensitive issue, and we hope this does not, become the start of something bigger in the Middle East. That's a fine place to leave it for now. Thank you for talking to us at this time. International Affairs Analyst Doc Brooks, thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure.